How's it going, everybody? Andy McCullough from the Los Angeles Times here with Dylan Hernandez, also of the Los Angeles Times. And Dylan, the Dodgers just beat up the Atlanta Braves pretty easily in Game 1 of the NLDS. It was a very a ho-hum ass kicking.
I don't know. It's going to end in 3. I mean, it's kind of hard to sit here and actually try to give serious analysis of what we just saw here, right?
So Hyun-Jin Ryu pitched 7 excellent innings. Maybe the level of competition wasn't what it might have been if he was facing the Houston Astros or something like that. But look, he went out and just sort of numbed the bats of the team he was facing and did exactly what the Dodgers needed them to do tonight.
Yeah, and earlier today I was talking to somebody and they kind of pointed out the fact, right, that just 4 years ago he had this major labrum operation. And I guess at the time the medical literature said that he had a 40 to 50% chance of being the pitcher that he was previously.
Right.
And tonight this was kind of the he himself said, right, that the last 3 years kind of coming back has been this gradual hard process, and tonight was kind of the fruits of his labor, so to speak. So good for him.
It's interesting, they won 6-0, and you look at the team that was so good last year, and they pretty much brought everyone back. And yet you look at tonight, Ryu wasn't on the postseason roster. Jock Peterson hit the first homer. He was left off the roster in the first round. Max Muncy spent all of last year in AAA. Kike Hernandez wasn't allowed to face righties. He homers off a righty. It's like they played this whole season sort of underneath the shadow of last October, and yet they're coming into this year with guys who weren't as scarred by that experience as some of the other ones.
And it's kind of interesting, right? I mean, I think we initially, maybe early in the year, we saw regression from certain players, and that's all that we were kind of focused on, and we kind of missed the little signs of growth here and there.
Right.
There was a scout, obviously, that I spoke to and I think you probably talked to also, who mentioned, about Kike Hernandez, that he's kind of made that adjustment, maybe that guys like Peterson and Bellinger have had trouble doing, shortening up the swing, just kind of, the bat speed's always been there, and maybe now, he's an all-star caliber player. This guy didn't rule that out. I mean, he's been right before about things.
Yeah, Hernandez has been huge for them. He bats 8th against righties now, and he's going to start against lefties. And, look, I mean, this just feels like a preliminary in so many ways. I mean, we'll see. Who knows? Anibal Sanchez could give the Dodgers some trouble tomorrow, but the gap in talent seems pretty sizable, and so we'll see if the Dodgers can take care of business and set up for the next series. But it's like we were saying the other day, after this just preposterous regular season where every day seemed like life or death for about 3 months, I think they have to be considered the favorite to win the pennant at this point, just because you don't know if the Rockies or the Brewers who's going to win that series, and these guys are probably pretty comfortably going to roll through.
Yeah, I think one thing tomorrow, I think the real big thing obviously huge start for Clayton Kershaw.
Yeah.
If after seeing what Ryu did today, I mean, he's got to come out and do something at least kind of in the ballpark. He can't have the kind of performance he did against the Giants there.
Right.
I mean, then you're starting to, right, I mean, all that talk about them being the favorites and stuff, I think does get put into question if he doesn't go out and do what he's supposed to do.
Well, I think there's two really interesting things about tomorrow. It's one is how does Clayton Kershaw pitch, and how do they manage Clayton Kershaw? Do they manage him the way that they did in the past, or do they manage him like they would manage a Hyun-Jin Ryu earlier in the year, or an Alex Wood, or a Rich Hill in the postseason last year, where if he gets into trouble in the 5th inning, do they go to someone else? I mean, that's going to be a real interesting test.
Yeah, well, they didn't use Jansen today.
Correct.
So, they're
set up pretty well. They didn't use Maeda, they didn't use Alexander.
And then they got the off day coming up the day after that. Yeah. So my guess is that it's going to be on the shorter, on the shorter side.
And they didn't use the true closer, Pedro Baez. He's 100% pitching tomorrow in a big spot. It's going to be great. Yeah. All right, well, we'll be back tomorrow to talk about more of it. You can read all the coverage of tonight's game in the pages of the LA Times and at latimes.com/Dodgers. Have a great night.